Okay, so time for a new thing. We've been talking about alleles and how they combine, and we said that when you have two different alleles and they disagree about something, they fight and the dominant one wins. And that is often what happens, but it's not always what happens. Some alleles actually compromise and they get along instead of fighting. And then you get effects like you might have an animal where B is for black fur and little b is for white fur, but the black doesn't simply override the white. Instead, you get a combination of black and white, and there's actually a couple of ways that that can look. And they have different names, and you're going to have fun trying to remember them because they're similar in some ways. Here's a couple of the ways that you can get combinations of those two alleles. One of them is called incomplete dominance, and the other one is called codominance. And I apologize for this, there's actually two names for this one. You get incomplete dominance, and sometimes it's also called intermediate dominance. So what do those mean? What we're looking at here is, in both cases, an animal that's big B, little b. Now, if this were normal dominance, like we taught you in the first couple of days, you would look at that and say capital B for the black is the dominant one, black wins, this animal is black. But something else happens when you've got incomplete or codominance. Just changing colors here. If you have incomplete dominance, you get this. With incomplete dominance, white plus black equals gray. You get a brand new color that isn't black or white. You get something in between. So incomplete, maybe think incomplete means in between. If it's black and white, you're going to get gray. If it's red and white, you're going to get pink. If it's super tall and super short, you're going to get medium. Things like that. So you end up getting a new color that didn't exist before. With codominance, if you have one allele saying black and one allele saying white, here's what you get. You actually get both. With humans who have hair color like this, we call them salt and pepper because they have a mix of black hair and white hair. And from a distance that looks gray, but when you get up close you see that there actually are no gray hairs. There's black and white hairs living side by side. So incomplete means you get an in-between trait that isn't exactly this or this. Codominance is the alleles say, tell you what, I want black, you want white. I'll take over some of these hairs completely and make them 100% black, and you can have some of the other hairs and make them 100% white. And in that way we'll get like a blend. So you get to commit that to memory, and it took me a while, but it can be done, I promise. So let's take a look at a couple other examples, and then we'll do some Punnett squares and see how we handle this. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so a snapdragon is a type of small flower that often comes in reds and whites, and as you'll see in a second, it also comes in pinks. And the alleles that it can have are C for color, R for red flowers, or you can have CW for white. Notice we're not bothering with capital and lowercase letters anymore because you can't really say either of these is dominant to the other, because what happens when these mix is you get a flower that isn't red or white. It's going to be the color that's a mix of red and white, which is pink. So they start us off with show the phenotypes and genotypes of the F1 generation with a cross between a red snapdragon, CRCR, and a white Snapdragon CW. So we start with two pretty boring parents, one that's totally red and one that's totally white. Here's the alleles that the CR can pass on. It's guaranteed to be a CR. The white Snapdragon's guaranteed to pass on a CW. I'll mention real quick, it's not necessary to do two columns of this. That's a bit of a waste of space and ink. You could just do a 1x1 Punnett square, because 100% of these offspring are going to be CRCW. When you're writing these, because neither one is dominant, it's not incredibly urgent to put them in either order. You can't really say one of these comes before the other or dominates the other. I try to put them in alphabetical order just because that way I'll write them consistently and they all look the same. If you have a page where half of them are CRCW and half of them are CWCR, you'll drive yourself crazy trying to match things up. So just to have some kind of ordering system, I recommend you alphabetize these. And what this means is that the offspring from those two plants is going to be 100% CRCW. And what color does that make? It makes the color that's part red and part white, and if you've ever played with paint, you know that means pink. So, not too exciting yet, but now the good stuff happens. In the next generation, if we take F1 plants, meaning these, and they fertilize each other, now we have parents who are CRCW crossing with other parents who are CRCW, and now we're going to get some variety. This is a pink Snapdragon, so is this. When this releases pollen, it's going to produce some that have CR and some that have CW. And for the other plant, same thing. So what do we get when we combine these? This plant is CRCR. This plant is a CR with a CW, and I'm putting the R first because alphabetical order. Here we get W and R, but I'm going to say the R first, alphabetical order. And here's CW. What do those look like? Red and red. This plant's probably red, or its flowers are. Red and white is where you get pink. Red and white makes pink, and white plus white probably makes white. So there's our genotype and phenotype. We could do percentages here and say these offspring will be 25% red, 2 out of 4 is 50% pink, and 25% white, but in this case they just wanted the genos and phenos, and we have them now. All right, so the Punnett square is really not all that different. The complexity just comes with when you have a mix of alleles. You don't just look at the first one anymore. You say, wait, when two Snapdragon alleles disagree, they compromise instead of wanting them just running over the other one and saying, I'm dominant, you shut up. They'll say, you want red, I want white, let's use the color that's a mix of the both of us.